Hey there, welcome back. We're doing something super important today, a deep dive into dementia care.
Yeah, a really important topic.
You gave us this guide for healthcare professionals, right? So we're going to pull out the most practical, insightful stuff.
That's a lot of information.
It is. It's dense, but there's so much good stuff in here.
Yeah, definitely.
So it starts off talking about the different types of dementia.
Okay.
Alzheimer's disease, most common one, we all know that.
Right.
But then there's vascular dementia, which is, caused by like reduced blood flow to the brain, like mini strokes that end up, impacting your thinking.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that each type of dementia, it can have like a slightly different course.
Oh, interesting.
It might actually benefit from different approaches to care. So that's why getting the diagnosis right is so important.
And there are more than just those two, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's one in here I'd never even heard of before, dementia with Lewy bodies.
Have you ever heard of that one?
No.
Yeah, it can cause like really vivid hallucinations.
Wow.
Which is, it's fascinating, but it can be a little scary too, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
It really highlights how diverse dementia can be.
Yeah.
It's not a one-size-fits-all diagnosis.
Right.
And this guide, it really emphasizes that right from the start.
Okay.
This isn't just about memory loss.
Yeah.
Although that's often a part of it, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I was surprised to read that memory issues aren't the only, early warning sign.
Right.
It could be something as subtle as, someone suddenly disliking a food they used to love.
Interesting.
Or maybe they're constantly bumping into things because they have trouble judging distances.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, it's not always obvious, right?
No, it's not always obvious at all.
Right.
And that's why healthcare professionals, they need to be really observant.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, this guide actually mentions a specific screening tool
Okay.
called the mini-cog.
The mini-cog.
The mini-cog. And basically, it's this quick puzzle and memory test.
Okay.
And you could do it right there in the doctor's office.
Oh, wow. So it's that easy.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Interesting.
Helps doctors figure out if, more in-depth testing is needed.
Gotcha.
Early diagnosis is so important, even if there isn't a cure. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. The earlier, the more time you have to plan, make decisions.
Exactly.
So once someone has been diagnosed, the guide talks a lot about management and treatment.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by how much emphasis it puts on what they call non-pharmaceutical approaches.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so we're not just talking about medications here, but things like, have you heard of cognitive stimulation therapy?
I feel like I've heard of it, but I couldn't tell you what it is.
So think of it like group brain training exercises.
Okay.
Specifically designed for people with dementia.
Okay, so it's like targeted brain training.
Exactly, yeah.
Interesting.
And then there's reminiscence therapy, which I love this one.
Tell me about it.
Using old photos or music
Oh, wow.
to tap into those memories.
That's amazing.
And it can be really powerful.
I bet. It's like instead of just masking the symptoms, you're trying to really engage and stimulate the brain.
Yes, exactly.
In a way that improves quality of life, right?
Yes, I love that approach.
Me too.
Okay, now for a tougher topic. Driving.
Yeah.
Everybody worries about this as they age.
Yeah, as you get older.
But with dementia, it's obviously a huge concern, right?
Yeah, of course.
This guide has a whole table
Really?
breaking down the legal requirements for reporting an unsafe driver with dementia.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that complicated.
And I had no idea it varied so much from place to place.
Really?
Yeah, it's different everywhere.
Wow.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah, it's a conversation nobody wants to have.
No.
But this guide gives really clear advice on how to approach it.
It does.
Sensitively, but, still keeping everyone's safety in mind.
Yeah, and it's not just about taking away the car keys, right?
Right.
It emphasizes finding alternative ways to get around.
Right, like what kinds of things?
Like ride-sharing services or community transportation programs.
That's a good idea.
It's about making adjustments while maintaining independence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For as long as possible.
Absolutely. And, that kind of brings us to another important aspect that we should probably touch on.
Yeah, what's that?
Legal and financial preparedness.
Oh, okay.
Power of attorney, living wills, all that.
Right.
Not the most exciting topics.
No, not really fun cocktail party conversation.
Exactly.
But they're crucial for anyone, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in the context of dementia, though, right?
Yes, especially. It's about getting those documents in order while someone still has the capacity to make decisions.
Exactly.
Being proactive rather than reactive.
I love that. That's so smart.
And it empowers individuals to have a say in their future care.
That's huge.
And ensures their wishes are honored.
Yeah. I really appreciate how this guide emphasizes respecting the individual's wishes throughout their whole journey with dementia.
Me too.
It's not just about medical care.
Right.
It's about maintaining their dignity and autonomy.
Yes, exactly. It's a holistic approach
Absolutely.
that goes beyond the medical diagnosis itself.
I love that.
It recognizes the emotional, the legal, the practical aspects of living with this disease.
Yeah. Speaking of support,
Yeah.
I was really glad to see a whole section dedicated to caregivers in here.
Oh, yeah.
Because being a caregiver for someone with dementia,
It's tough.
it can be so incredibly isolating
Yeah.
and emotionally draining.
Oh, absolutely.
And this guide doesn't shy away from that at all.
Good.
It lists a ton of resources, like national organizations, local support groups,
Okay.
even apps for caregivers.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like they're saying, we see you caregivers and we're here to help.
Yes, exactly. But it acknowledges that burden, that immense physical and emotional burden that they carry, and it really emphasizes self-care, which I think is so important.
Yes, absolutely. It's like running a marathon. You can't pour from an empty cup, right?
That's such a good analogy.
Caregivers need that support
They absolutely do.
to keep going. And that makes me think about something you mentioned earlier, cognitive reserve. This idea that challenging your brain throughout life might offer some protection against decline.
It's a fascinating area of research.
It is fascinating.
And while it's not, a foolproof way to prevent dementia,
Right.
it definitely suggests that staying mentally active has its benefits.
Yeah, okay.
Like learning new things, doing puzzles, even just being socially engaged.
Right.
All of that seems to make a difference.
It's building mental muscle, right?
Exactly.
You're exercising your brain.
Use it or lose it, right?
Exactly. So it's never too late to start challenging yourself a bit.
Yeah, never too late.
Now, we touched on this a little bit before, but those behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia.
BPSD.
Yeah, the BPSD. Things like, agitation, becoming aggressive, or even paranoia.
Right.
This guide really digs into this.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
And honestly, it seems like these behaviors can be one of the toughest parts of dementia care.
You're absolutely right.
For everyone involved, right?
For everyone involved. And, it can be really hard for caregivers to understand.
I bet.
But it's crucial to remember that these behaviors they're stemming from the changes happening in the brain.
Right. It's not the person.
Exactly.
It's the disease.
It's the disease showing up in these really challenging ways, yeah.
So what does the guide recommend for handling those situations?
So the most important thing is to respond with compassion.
Okay.
And patience.
Yeah.
And understanding.
Easier said than done, I'm sure.
For sure.
Especially when you're exhausted, you're stressed.
Absolutely. But it's about understanding that their reality is different from ours, And we need to respond in a way that reduces their distress.
Okay.
Instead of making it worse.
So instead of arguing about what's real or not, you just sort of meet them where they are.
Exactly.
And try to de-escalate the situation.
Precisely. Validation and redirection are key here.
Okay, I like that.
So, for example,
yeah.
Imagine someone with dementia is convinced that a stranger is in their house.
Okay, yeah.
Instead of arguing with them, you could say something like, that sounds scary. Let's go make sure that everything's locked up tight.
Okay.
You're acknowledging their feelings.
Right.
And gently guiding them toward a place where they feel safe and secure.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine how much patience that takes.
It takes a lot.
Especially if it's happening all the time.
All the time. And that's why the guide emphasizes again and again the importance of caregiver support.
Right.
Learning these strategies.
Yeah.
Having realistic expectations.
Yeah.
And taking care of yourself.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly.
And caregivers need to be equipped for that long haul.
100%.
It's not easy.
Not at all. And beyond just patience and understanding, this guide also talks about specific non-pharmaceutical approaches to managing these behavioral challenges.
Like what?
Well, you mentioned music therapy earlier, which seems like such a natural fit here.
Oh, absolutely.
It's amazing how music can tap into those deeper emotions and memories, even when words fail.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And it goes beyond just passive listening, too.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Creating personalized playlists, incorporating movement, singing along.
Or even using instruments.
Wow, engaging with music on a whole other level.
Exactly.
I love that. What other approaches are mentioned?
One that stands out is called sensory modulation.
Sensory modulation, what is that?
So it involves using different sensory experiences to create like a really calming and soothing environment.
Oh, I like that.
Things like touch, aromatherapy, Even weighted blankets are really popular now.
It's like creating the safe haven for their senses.
Exactly.
Which makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Especially considering how the world might feel pretty chaotic and overwhelming to someone with dementia.
Right. We don't always think about that, do we?
Yeah.
Sensory modulation can really help reduce anxiety,
Okay.
promote relaxation, and it can even help improve sleep, which can be a major challenge for both the individual and the caregiver.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of sleep, the guide talks about how important a consistent routine is.
Yeah, routines are huge.
And a sleep-conducive environment.
Makes a big difference.
Things like minimizing daytime naps, getting enough sunlight during the day, and then keeping the bedroom cool, dark, and quiet at night.
Yeah, all that good sleep hygiene stuff.
Exactly. It helps regulate that natural sleep-wake cycle.
Right, which can get all out of whack with dementia.
Exactly. And if you can get that right, it can make a world of difference.
A huge difference.
For everyone's well-being.
Everyone's, yeah.
One of the things that really struck me, and it's a little heartbreaking if I'm honest,
Yeah.
was the guide section on communication in the later stages of dementia.
Oh, yeah, that's tough.
As the disease progresses, talking can become really difficult, sometimes even impossible.
It's true. It really makes you realize how much we take communication for granted.
We do. We really do.
Don't we?
Yeah. So how do you communicate when words are no longer an option?
Well, that's when nonverbal communication becomes even more important.
Okay.
Think about the power of touch,
Yeah.
eye contact, facial expressions, even just being fully present and attentive in those moments.
Right.
We can convey so much empathy and connection without saying a word.
It's like you're tapping into this deeper language.
Yes.
Human connection.
Exactly. Even when someone can't respond verbally,
Yeah.
keep talking to them.
Okay.
Explain what you're doing.
Okay.
Involve them in conversations.
Yeah.
Don't just treat them like they're not there. You know, never underestimate the power of just being present with them.
Being present. I love that.
Yeah.
And of course, music probably has a role to play here too.
Oh, huge. Music can be so powerful in those later stages.
Yeah.
You know, those familiar tunes. They can evoke positive emotions.
Yeah.
They can sometimes reduce agitation.
Wow.
And it can even just spark a moment of connection, you know, when it seems like all other avenues are closed.
Yeah, like it becomes this universal language
Yes.
that bridges that communication gap.
Exactly.
You know, we've talked a lot about the challenges of dementia care,
It's true.
but reading this guide, I was also struck by these glimmers of joy and connection and even humor
Oh, absolutely.
that shine through, like in that section about reminiscence therapy,
Yeah.
sharing old photos.
This powerful.
Letters or even just telling stories from the past can spark these amazing memories.
It's amazing how those memories stick around, isn't it?
It really is. And it can bring a smile to someone's face.
It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And it's not just about focusing on the past either.
Right.
The guide also encourages finding ways to create new, joyful experiences.
Oh, I love that.
Even in the midst of dementia, things like, you know, enjoying nature.
Being outside is so good for you.
It is. Listening to live music, sharing a meal together, simple things, but so powerful.
Exactly. It's about finding those sparks of joy and meaning in the present moment.
Yes, I love that. Speaking of finding meaning, there's a whole section in here about spirituality and dementia.
Oh, interesting. Tell me about that.
And it really struck me because it acknowledges that even as our cognitive abilities decline, that human need for meaning, for purpose, for connection to something bigger than ourselves, that doesn't just disappear.
It doesn't. We all crave that, don't we?
We do. And that's such a core part of who we are as human beings.
Yeah. We have to acknowledge that spiritual dimension of care, which can look different for everyone, right?
Of course, yeah. For some people, it's prayer or meditation, or maybe it's connecting with nature in a spiritual way, or maybe it's just holding someone's hand and offering comfort and presence.
Just being there.
It's about honoring the whole person, not just the disease. And, you know, that makes me think about this idea of person-centered care that we talked about.
Yeah.
That seems to be like at the heart of this whole guide, you know?
It really is. It's not just about managing symptoms.
Right.
It's about treating the individual.
Yes, exactly.
Remembering that this is a person with their own, like, unique history, their own preferences, their own values.
Right.
All of that still matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dementia doesn't erase who they are.
It affects everyone so differently.
It does.
So a one-size-fits-all approach just wouldn't work.
No, not at all. It's about tailoring the care plan,
Right.
how you communicate, even just the environment.
Right.
All of it needs to be adapted to that person's needs.
They even talk about, like, adapting meal times.
Oh, yeah.
For someone who used to be a huge foodie.
Right, or like...
Or incorporating their favorite hobbies into their daily routine, you know?
Yes, exactly.
Little things, but they can make a world of difference, right?
A world of difference. Even the way we talk about dementia matters.
Yeah, yeah. How so?
Well, I noticed this guide is really intentional about using respectful language.
Okay.
Like saying, person with dementia.
Right.
Rather than a dementia patient.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's a small change.
Yeah.
But I think it really shifts your whole perspective.
Yeah, it puts the focus back on the person, not just the diagnosis.
Exactly.
It acknowledges that the person is still there,
yes,
even as the disease progresses, and they deserve to be treated with dignity and respect.
100%. And honestly, that's something we could all use a reminder of, even outside of the context of dementia, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Just that level of empathy and understanding in our everyday interactions.
Well said.
Yeah.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has. We covered so much.
It's eye-opening, honestly, and quite inspiring at times.
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing how much work goes into providing truly compassionate and effective care.
It's a lot of work, but it's so rewarding, right?
Yeah, it must be. For our listeners who are thinking, okay, this is great, but where can I learn more? Where do we go from here?
Well, this guide is a fantastic starting point, actually.
It is.
It has a whole list of resources in the back.
Does it? Okay.
Things like national organizations like the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay.
Support groups for caregivers.
Great.
Even apps that can help with communication and memory aids.
That's amazing. Technology is helpful for this.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll be sure to include links to all of that in the show notes so you can find them easily.
Awesome.
Because knowledge is power, right?
100%.
Having access to reliable information is so crucial for anyone navigating this journey, whether you're a patient or a family member or a friend.
Absolutely.
It's so important to be informed.
Yeah.
As we start to wrap things up here, I want to leave our listeners with a sense of hope, you know?
Yeah, I love that.
Yes, dementia is a challenging disease. There's no getting around that.
It is.
But there's still so much room for joy, for connection, for meaning throughout this journey.
There really is.
It doesn't have to be all doom and gloom.
No, not at all. And you're not alone on this journey.
That's right.
There's a whole community of people, researchers, healthcare providers, other caregivers, people living with dementia themselves who are all figuring this out together.
That's a beautiful thought.
It gives me hope.
It does. So until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.